What's up, my petty files? How's it going, everyone? Please don't demonetize me. Since my video last week, I feel like the GamerGate 2 movement is in full swing, in full effect. We're starting to see the same tactics that were used in GamerGate Season 1. Hit pieces by the mainstream media to try and skew the optics into gamers being evil bigots who should be ousted from society while completely failing to even mention what their actual gripes were. I was a little too young to be following it at the time or even really care about it when GamerGate Season 1 was happening, but trying to go back on it now as like an adult is actually a very difficult thing to do. All the information you get is either going to be biased to one side or another, so parsing through that data, like unless you're like a researcher, it's just like a normal person wouldn't really have the time to do that. Which is why I've been so infatuated with GamerGate Season 2. I get to watch it in real time. It's like watching Fish Tank for me. And we're only at the beginning stages, but the tactics, my God, they're getting dirty. But I think what's different about Season 2 as compared to Season 1 of GamerGate is the balance of power isn't so heavily weighted for the mainstream media. The mainstream media doesn't have the same pull with general society like they did back in 2014. So a few events have happened over the past week, which I think are drawing the troops to the front lines, to the battle lines. Battle lines are being drawn. So why don't we sit back, take a sip of coffee, and find out what happened in GamerGate Season 2 so far in the last week. So the first major piece that I want to mention is an article that was put out by The Verge. The article is titled, "The Return of GamerGate is Smaller and Sadder. A group of gamers have mobilized a harassment campaign against a story consultant company," this being Sweet Baby Inc., "marginalized developers and journalists in protest of what they see as, quote, forced diversity in gaming." The article basically lays out the writer Ash Parrish's time undercover in the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Discord server and gives a corporate-approved version of the events of what led up to the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Steam curator list. She also gives a slanted view of what the original GamerGate was by saying, quote, "Back then, the harassers used obfuscating tactics, cloaking their oftentimes violent harassment in the veneer of legitimate complaint. Social media gave a platform to those, quote, legitimate complaints, while the games industry itself remained largely silent, allowing the movement to grow to a many-tentacled behemoth that bolstered the ranks of the, quote, alt-right movements that plagued our political landscape to this very day." Which is mostly untrue. Yes, just right off the bat, yes, a rogue group, a fringe group of very angry 4chaners mainly, did have a harassment campaign that did actively dox people during GamerGate 1. This did happen, absolutely. Reprehensible, I think we can all agree upon that. But that's not what the overwhelming majority of the GamerGate movement was about. It was about demanding better ethics in games journalism. Social media and game devs, which both lean more progressive liberal, especially in 2014, they didn't sit silently at all. She also fails to mention that a lot of the harassment and doxing were provably false flag operations, but I digress. If you want to know more, I'm actually working on a GamerGate Season 1 recap, a GamerGate Season 1 lore, what happened video that's going to break down everything. It was a lot more than I remembered that actually happened, so it's going to take me a while to make it. Probably only going to drop next week, but it's definitely going to be a lengthy one. Check it out if you want to get the full story of what happened during the first round of GamerGate in 2014. I guess subscribe. Probably be the best way to do that if you want to check. Okay, moving on. Ash goes on to say, quote, "This time, instead of assembling under the false banner of, quote, ethics and journalism, this new campaign has chosen, quote, wokeism and Sweet Baby as the focus of their grievances. The result has been a wave of bigoted harassment targeting marginalized developers, journalists, and gamers." I did cover the beginning of GamerGate 2 last week. The very, very quick TLDR is that there's this company called Sweet Baby Inc. They basically are like outside consultants that do writing for video games. They're extremely woke, and the writing actually that they do is really bad. It's terrible. It sucks. A lot of the games they worked on, people just didn't like the writing for. This guy Kabrutus made a Steam curator list, which basically detailed any game that Sweet Baby had a hand in making, because again, they're an outside consultant, not the main developer of a video game. So you as a Steam user, if you subscribe to the list, anytime you click on a game that is a Sweet Baby involved, it'll warn you, hey, this game is not recommended for your taste. tastes. Caught up, let's move on. Again, she failed to mention that it was actually a Sweet Baby employee who antagonized the situation by trying to get the curator list creator Kirastoulis' account removed from Steam and rally their followers to dogpile and start a harassment campaign towards them for not liking their games. And Kirastoulis, by Sweet Baby standards, is actually a marginalized individual, as he is Brazilian, so he's literally like one of the people that they set out to protect and represent. The article then goes on to detail Ash's time undercover in the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected's Discord server, which has become popular as well. Which honestly, this part of the article, not much happened. Most of this article is padding, but she does recount some unhinged comment made by the racist, bigot, misogynist gamers, such as, quote, "When I act racist, homophobic, or whatever, I feel free." And, quote, "We're in the age of where if you don't want to see BLM or pride in a game, you're a bigot," which I feel like is pretty light if you've ever been on a Discord server before. This article should have been titled, "So I tried Discord for the first time, major ick, find out what happened. Also, I'm a black woman." Funnily enough though, the article actually had some pretty base quotes too, such as, quote, "My problem with most media nowadays, that they include black or LGBTQ characters without giving some thoughts about them." Which, yeah, if you're familiar with the Sweet Baby catalog of games, they aren't the best at making relatable characters of color. They truly feel more like what a marketing team thinks the kids are into. If I'm being real, which this is actually honestly a rant that could be its own video, so I'll keep this short, I think art has like a real issue with trying to make everything subversive these days. But when everyone's making everything subversive, rewriting how you look at standards, then that ends up becoming like the new normal. So then none of it is subversive anymore. It's just the new normal. The other issue, it's very difficult to make something that's subversive and good, because you could very easily make something that's subversive just for the sake of trying to subvert some kind of trope. But I think making something that's subversive and good, it's a very, very difficult thing to do, and it should be rare and reserved for like people that are masters at their craft, you know, which Sweet Baby is not. With GamerGate 2 now seemingly in full effect, I just wanted to cover a few other small things I've noticed happening on the Battlefront. And no, I'm not talking about the less than stellar Battlefront Classic Collections, which was released on Steam recently. Which, by the way, if you're on PC, you can pick up both the original games for about $10 a pop. So if you're looking to play them, I'd suggest you do that before they end up getting delisted, as these companies tend to do after they release a crappy remaster. But back to it, the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected Steam curator list is now sitting at over 300,000 subscribers, so if you're looking to avoid blowing your money on poorly written games, I'd suggest you give it a sub. Stellar Blade dropped a ladder physics trailer. If you're unaware, it's an action beat-em-up game in the vein of Bayonetta or Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance that actually looks like it's gonna be pretty good. It stars an attractive female lead character, which of course is a big no-no if you're on Team Sweet Baby. The trailer showcases the next-gen jiggle physics on a ladder, so people on Twitter obviously were up in arms about a female character being hot. Goon at your own leisure if that's your thing, but I just want you to know, it's not cucumber approved, you sick freaks! The reason why I want to talk about this is I really want to highlight this one comment that I found interesting. The user said, quote, "I'm always so conflicted about games like this, cause part of me hates that it's certainly trying to appeal to the male gaze, but the other part of me also loves a diva with a PhD in cuntology," which is a funny word, but that aside, I think it perfectly encapsulates the Sweet Baby mindset. Strong, independent women need to be proud of how sexy they are because feminism. But also, you're a misogynist if you're a man and want to see the same thing because feminism. It's the feminist dilemma. The next story I want to cover is that I've seen a headline floating around as well that the FBI and the DHS are trying to implement a program to monitor hate speech and radicalization in video games. The extreme clickbait version of this that you can see here in this TikTok is that basically the FBI and the DHS will arrest you if you say hate speech in a COD lobby or burn down a forest in Minecraft because it promotes global warming. I can't really substantiate those claims at the moment, but if you have any like supporting supporting evidence, please send it my way. I'd be very interested to read that. But I think where this is stemming from is a proposal by the US Government Accountability Office, which was released on February the 28th, 2024, which states that the FBI and the DHS did a study which found, quote, domestic violent extremists use social media and gaming platforms for several purposes, including to reach wide audiences, to insert the extremist ideas into the mainstream, and to radicalize, recruit, and mobilize others, according to the government reports and the excerpts GAO spoke with. This proposal is for the FBI and the DHS to work alongside game developers to create tools to ban hateful and potentially radicalizing content not too dissimilar to the methods they already use with social media companies as revealed by the Twitter files. The proposal is kind of vague and there aren't any concrete plans of attack, but nonetheless it is creepy that this could be and probably would be something that's implemented in the near future. The idea that the government needs to monitor gaming, the last safe space for male teenagers to live wild and free, is rather disturbing. Also, let's be honest, the FBI has a terrible track record when it comes to programs designed to prevent radicalization but end up actively radicalizing people with low IQs or who are autistic. And let's be honest, gamers, those are our people. On another note, GDC, the Game Developers Conference, will be holding a keynote on March 20th on how to get on your knees and beg and cry and emasculate yourself in the event you've been cancelled. I will definitely be keeping an eye out for this event, so potential video in the future. I'd subscribe for that as well, I guess, maybe. The keynote's title is, "So You've Been Cancelled, Now What?" And the details read as follows. Can someone who has hurt others even repeatedly actually change? What comes after the call out? What can somebody do if they've been called problematic but aren't totally sure why? Or after losing friends, jobs, and networks, how does a person move forward if they want to become someone who won't cause the type of harm, even unintentionally, again? For the last 2 years, Respec, which is a company I'm going to look into, has been talking to people in the games industry who have been called out, confronted, cancelled, or fired for wrongdoing, harming others, or crossing boundaries or consent. By balancing compassion and accountability, Respec believes that restoring humanity to the experience of causing harm better fosters long-term change. Takeaway: this talk will share an actionable roadmap to change, quotes from participants, common routes of accountability that have emerged, and Respec's approach to facilitating accountable discussions. The considerations outlined can also offer those running or building communities a nuanced framework for addressing harm in ways that better foster change. This is for anyone who has hurt others and wants to prevent it from happening again. Anyone worried about unintentionally harming others, anyone who faces a call out and wants to make things right, or anyone who is interested in supporting people they care about who have done harmful things. My takeaway is that this will be indoctrination grievance studies for straight white males to be less straight, less white, and less male. And as I was just about to finish editing this video, articles started coming out about a Kotaku editor-in-chief exiting the company due to their new directive, which is switching over from gaming news to gaming guides, which indicates that Kotaku clearly isn't doing well financially due to the sudden 180 of their business model. Lastly, I've seen people discussing Unknown 9 Awakening, a new IP from the first-time game developer Reflector and being published by Bandai Namco. It's an action-adventure game that I'm sure will have light RPG elements and a color-coded loot system. And make sure you get that orange armor, because everyone knows that orange or sometimes yellow armor is unique. The gameplay looks whatever. It's an early trailer, which usually aren't very good indicators of how the final product will actually play and feel and look. But that aside, the reason why I'm bringing this up is Reflector's brand content manager is David Bedard, who is the co-founder, COO, and director of Sweet Baby Inc. Unknown 9 was also submitted to an F-tier award show called the Shorty Awards in the storytelling category. If you look at the submissions page, you can also see the credits to the game, including head of Sweet Baby Inc., Kim Belair, who was listed as the story's architect. With the 2 trailers released so far, you can already see Sweet Baby's influence. The game's protagonist, Haruna, is played by actress Anya Shalatra, most famous for her role as Yennefer in the Netflix Witcher TV series. Anya is objectively pretty, but check out the character comparison posted by Grums on Twitter. What did they do to her? Jesus. What is the progressives' obsession with making women ugly? I mean, they even made Anya look like a monster in season 1 of The Witcher for no reason. What do they have against this actress? You should also give Grums a follow. He's a veteran game developer who's pretty based. He's worked on classics like World of Warcraft, Diablo 2, and StarCraft. And as the game has been getting backlash from the GamerGate movement, Bandai Namco hasn't been handling it well. You can see in this Fandom Pulse article it says, quote, Reflector's Unknown 9 Awakening bans forum users and wipes 99% of all posts to cover up involvement with Sweet Baby Inc. A lot of the backlash you see had been happening on the game's Steam forum page. So Bandai Namco, getting nervous by all the negative comments trying to avoid a sales disaster in the future, has gone through and swept out basically anything mentioning Sweet Baby Inc. and just anything mentioning anything negative about the game at all. So as you can see, battle lines have been drawn. The same tactics, as I mentioned, that were used in GamerGate Season 1, the same slimy tactics by the mainstream media are being used here in GamerGate Season 2. I have a feeling a lot of things are going to be happening very quickly over the next few weeks. As I mentioned, it's season 1 or GamerGate 1, whatever, was like a very complicated, convoluted thing to go through after it happened in post. So I'm very curious how things will be playing out here with GamerGate 2, and I'm going to try and do my best to make things as unbiased as possible, but it's going to be hard because companies like Sweet Baby Inc. objectively suck. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe to my channel, like the video, that helps a lot. Leave a comment, I always like reading those. I have channel memberships open if you're into that stuff as well. That's gonna be it. Bye bye.